What is up? It is Andy, and this has got to be one of the best Mondays throughout the course of the year. Like, you know how people say you got a case of the Mondays? Well, they definitely were talking about the opening Monday for the NHL playoffs, where we have the maximum amount of playoff games left. Like right now, we're looking at the maximum amount of games that we can possibly have left. It's like there's a massive meal sitting out in front of us, and we got the burgers, steaks, burritos, and we haven't touched any of it, and we're going to start to dig in tonight and continue to do that straight through June. And we got 4 series kicking off tonight, but remember, Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, these can be very ruckusy in the opening round. Those bumps and bruises and nicks haven't really accumulated yet. You start to see that at the end of round 2 and into round 3. But right now, everyone's holding that but the Paul Walker NOS in his first race. They're just holding that NOS coming out of the gate, people going wild. And you see things like Toronto beating Tampa 6-1 or whatever it was last year. You saw the President's Trophy winning Florida Panthers lose to the 8-seed Washington Capitals in the opening round last year, Game 1, remember that? So you have to be weary of these things happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus my attention on specific situations from specific teams and players within those teams who I've seen in the playoffs, and I know what to expect from them, and I'm going to try to kind of focus my bets around that and try to get us started on the right foot here, because if you remember last year, if there were a couple days where I was off, it was the very opening of the playoffs. So I will try to learn from my mistakes. One thing I want to start with those playoffs. In the opening round, and you saw this towards the end of the season, don't be scared. Like if you want to take a team, like money lines are not going to be the big thing for me tonight, because in these opening games, they're a little bit ruckusy, and you know, I could say I have a little bit of a feeling, but I'd rather, like I said, take some players and whatnot. But as we progress to take money lines, I want you to look back at that opening round last year. We saw a trend develop of these early goalie pulls, where a team would then go down 2, they would pull the goalie immediately again, and then they would lose by 3 or 4 goals. So if I'm going to put, let's say, $100 on a team, because I like them by the money line. Remember how good Tampa was at bouncing back? So let's say this was last year. I saw Tampa lose Game 1, and now I wanted to bet them on Game 2. If I had $100, I would do 70 on the money line, 20 by 1.5, and an extra 10 by 2.5 because of these early goalie pulls. I'm going to try to do this, not tonight so much, but as I like money lines as we get later into the series, because you can kind of feel the flow of the series and when a team is going to win a game, we're going to try to use that list area. I stored that in the bank from opening round last year. I'm going to try to take that into this one. The minus 2.5s caused by the early goalie pulls. Doesn't go late into round 2, but round 1, when people are holding that NOS, I'm going to try to take advantage of that the same way you should take advantage of the Bet365 promotion. Bet $1, you get 200 in free bet credits. As long as you're a new user, over 21, and located in a state or province where sports betting is permitted. And if you got a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Somebody will be there to help you out. Now, I will start with the game that starts first. My New York Islanders heading in there to Carolina. Now, Carolina, under Brindamore, for years, they've almost been criticized for going too hard. Ball so hard, fall so hard. That's what they've been doing. They've been blasting that NOS. And then as you saw last, they came out guns blazing, and it was a war versus Boston in the first round. And then they looked like a different team later in that second round versus the Rangers. But we're not at that point yet, which means that NOS is being blasted. And I think I want to go with Carolina to score the first goal in that game. I like home teams in their first playoff game being the team to score first. They're going wild out. Even if they don't win, that first period, they're hitting everything that moves, and they're the more likely team to score, in my opinion. Once in a while, it will screw you, but there are 4 games tonight. I will not be surprised if the home team scores first in 3 of those 4. I mean, Minnesota and Dallas are so tight that one truly is a coin flip, but other than that, I bet you the home team scores in 2 out of the other 3. I want to leave Minnesota out of it because those are 2 really good teams, but we'll get to that one in just a second. In that Carolina game, other than them scoring first, because I think they're going to be holding on that NOS, I want to take the over on Ilya Sorokin saves. I do not know what it is yet, but if it is anything around 27, 28, I'll even go over 29.5, because I think they're going to be getting a ton of pucks towards him, especially when you have a team who hasn't been scoring a lot. I think they're going to try to get a bunch of pucks to the net, and Sorokin's going to have to play well if the Islanders want to win this game. I'm looking for him to go over on his saves, and similarly, because they're such a vicious forechecking team, and the Islanders are notoriously slow starters. I don't think they're going to be getting a ton of pucks to the net. Maybe they do win. Maybe they get a few chances that they take advantage of, but I don't think they're just going to be peppering Anderson. I'll take the under on Anderson if it's anywhere around 26.5. I will go under on Anderson, like 26.5. On their team, there was a guy I told you about. I said, this is going to be a moneymaker for us come playoffs. But he almost already was before the playoffs, and that was Brent Burns. Once the Svechnikov injury happened and Carolina's scoring seemed to fall off a cliff, Burns took it upon himself. He was San Jose Burns. If he saw a lane to the net, that puck was getting shot, and he's been piling up the shot totals. I don't think this game would be any different, whether it's on the power play or even strength, whatever it may be. I'm going to take the over 2.5 shots on goal for Brent Burns. There's a good chance for that. And then on the other side of the puck, I will take over 1.5 shots on goal for Kyle Palmieri. Palmieri plays on that second line with Brock Nelson, probably their most productive line. The reason I like that line in this game and in the series in general is because Barzal is returning. He'll be playing with Horvat and Lee on the top line. They'll be getting the attention from the Jordan Staal line, which is going to free up opportunities for that second line. And they got Palmieri at 1.5 shots, and he's a very good shooter. I like the over for 1.5 shots on goal for Kyle Palmieri in that game. I do think Carolina is going to win. I mean, they won 7 of 8 home playoff games last year. Unfortunately for them, they lost the last one against the Rangers, which got them eliminated. But other than that, we took them every single time they were at home. I said, hey, when they lose at home, I'll take my hat off. They just won 7 in a row for us. They went 7-1 at home. Sorokin could be a weird X factor. I'm leaning Carolina, but those other bets are honestly my preferred ones for that game. Now, why don't we go to that Minnesota game I was just telling you about? These teams are just too close. The goalies are so good. If there's anything I'm going to take in this game,
don't you know, bump it up.
Crank the music and don't you know, bump it up.
You got to bump it up.
If you look at Dallas's opening series last year versus Calgary, and you had two teams who are playing defense, Dallas, when they want to, they can get in these crusty 1-0, 2-0 game. Did you see their last win of the season? A random 1-0 home win against the St. Louis Blues. And if you look at that first round, they got in a lot of low-scoring contests, and this is essentially the same team that they fielded last year with a couple of guys that they got at the trade deadline. I would rather bump that up to 6.5 and take the under on that one. And why don't you combine that with the over 1.5 shots on goal for Kyle Palmieri, which was also like a pretty high mine. It was like a minus 180 or something like that. Putting those two together will get you to plus money. But that's really the only one I like in that one, because I'm not going to start saying over on this player, over on that player, because there's a chance that's a 1-0 or 2-1 game. You never know with those two teams. Then moving on from there, we got the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. There's a weird... Swayman had to start a couple of games that they said all marks fine. It just gives me a little reason to wait a game before, dialing up on Boston. But there is a guy that I would rely on in that game. Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron. Until I see them not play well in a home playoff game, I'm always tempted to take them for points. I will take the rat. I will take Brad Marchand to register a point. I don't think they're going to lose. I just want to see this. I want to make sure. Like, Allmark, you are good, right? They weren't lying. They pulled him in the middle of a game and said, don't worry, he's fine. Swayman played the rest of them, and just gives me reason for a little concern. I'm being cautious. It's night one, but I wouldn't mind if you took Marchand to register a point with a Bruins win against the Florida Panthers. I mean, they are an incredible team after all, and even if Swayman plays, they should still be able to beat the Panthers. But the Panthers have one of those weird things going on where they have to fight for their lives every single night, and Boston truly hadn't had to play a really meaningful game in a while. Just a little reason to just be on the lookout. That same Florida team that won the President's Trophy, like I just mentioned, lost Game 1 against Washington last year. So just something to be on the lookout for. And the Edmonton Kings game, I need to see if I can truly trust Edmonton. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not buying in still. But if you want to take Edmonton, one thing I saw that I like both teams to score 2 in that game. So how about that? You take both teams to score 2 in that game if you're on DraftKings and combine that with the under 6.5 with the Minnesota-Dallas. But if you want to take Edmonton, I like the both teams to score 2, Edmonton to win. I saw it on Caesars. You can do both teams to score 2, Edmonton to win in 60, and that's, close to even money. But the Kings, I feel like, are very motivated in this, and that's a high price for Edmonton. I just want to see it happen. I always feel like once you know the score in a series, once you know, they're up 1-0, 2, you know the level of desperation, you know what they're going to kind of do. I just kind of want to see these matchups once before I really confidently start picking sides in those games. But that's why I really was focusing on a lot of those props for night 1. But hopefully they go well. Give you a nice assortment of them. Good luck to you. Better luck to me. Make sure you're subscribed to the OddsShopper channel here. Come follow me on social media. If I find some news throughout the day, I will upload an extra pick at the Sniff Central on my Instagram. It's at Andy Francis. So come find me there. Follow me there. There's a Sniff Central chat. That's right on the front page where I can share things, and sometimes I'll put it on my story. And don't forget, grab yourself a shirt there on Instagram or on andyfrancis.com. Most of them I have already. I will have the majority of them by Tuesday, the ones that I don't have already, and then I'll ship them out this week. All right, I will be back with you tomorrow. Take it easy and enjoy night 1. Let's go Islanders.